Hi everyone, happy Monday. I wanted to chat with you guys a little bit today. It's been a little while, and thank you all for joining. So, I wanted to talk about, let me just get settled a little bit. As always, I have my cup of tea, and I wanted to talk with you guys a little bit about my latest post. And I want to be honest with you guys that I received the most engagements to my recent post that I ever had. I think I've been on Instagram professionally for a few years now. I would say maybe a year and a half or so. And I think, like most people, I've been trying different things to see what works and always trying to find the best way to connect with you guys and finding myself and who I want to be. But I noticed that my recent post, yes, it was on Saturday, it was on medication, and it received the most engagement. And I'm not just talking about, the likes. It was really interesting for me to see how often it got shared, my recent post on medication, how people saved it. It reached thousands of people. And to me, that was the first. So not only I was very excited to reach and connect and get into conversation with so many people, I had to pause and take a look at what made it so effective, what made this post so effective. And part of it feels like, to me, the post on medication, my most recent one, it's something I shared with you guys, something I say to my clients in my therapy sessions. And I definitely believe that there is something unique and something kind of effective about sharing with you on a public platform something that I tell my clients in the private therapy sessions. Obviously, not what my clients say, but what I say to them. And I think there's something effective about sharing something original. I know that we are all inspired by each other and we reshare each other's work, and sometimes we get inspired by something someone said and we make it our own, and these are all wonderful and great. But I think the post probably got a lot of attention because it was something that I would say to my clients, and I think people resonated with that. I also believe what made this post so successful is that it was on the topic of medication. So I wanted to jump in this morning and talk with you guys about medication. I realize that there's a lot to say about this topic, and I know this could become an hour-long conversation, and that's not my intention. I just want to specifically talk about what I see. So, like I said, the post I shared I share a statement I give to my clients where I say to them, hey, look, there's not a secret VIP club. There is not a special trophy you're going to be given at the end of this journey or a few months into your journey of therapy for having dealt with your mental illness without medication. I tell them there's no secret club, okay? There's no special trophy. There's no special status for those who manage their mental illness without medication. So I tell my clients, you don't have to prove yourself to anybody. And that, I think, is the conversation we need to have, because this is what's happening. I meet with my clients, we get to know each other, I understand a little bit about their issues, and there are a couple of different things that I work with people, but most often it's anxiety related. I specialize in obsessive compulsive disorder, and my background is in addiction treatment, and I also work with couples. So those are a few things that I specifically focus on. And when I get to know my clients and understand their issues, then we start to talk about and consider, depending on how stressed they are, whether medication is the right fit for them. And I have to be honest with you guys, this month in June, since this is just July 6th today, the month in June, I've noticed that there has been a lot more stress for my clients. And obviously, I'm not treating thousands and thousands of people, but I can only speak of my experience that for a lot of people, June has been very stressful. And I think partially it's because of the pandemic, and obviously the historic political events that have taken place. I know that everybody's feeling it. So I also wanted to recognize that sometimes we have to consider and discuss medication, not just from the beginning of your therapy, but let's say you are 3 months, 5 months into therapy, but we're noticing that your mental health is worsening in some way or another. And so we want to talk about medication. And what I'm noticing is that when I ask my clients about medication, the phrase that I often hear they say to me is, well, I want to see how far I can go without taking medication. I want to see how long we can do this without medication. And I know this may sound okay, right? Yeah, of course, you can see how long you can be in therapy without medication. But when I talk to my clients a little bit more, and when I ask them a little bit more of what it is that's going on underneath it, here's the problem. They want to see how long they can do, how long they can do therapy, how long they can treat their mental illness without medication, because to them, once they start medication, they now at a different level. So there's so much stigma and shame around taking medication. That's what makes people delay it or postpone the decision of taking medication. And to me, that's a problem. Again, let me say this just to be clear. Not everybody has to be on medication. I'm a licensed psychologist. In California, I do not have the rights to prescribe medication. Psychiatrists do. So again, I'm not here to promote medication, but I am here to promote or address any barriers to your mental health journey. And that's the problem. There's so many different ways, there's so many different things that can help you. But if you say to me, hey, I don't want to take this X route, I don't want to take this Y route because of the shame and embarrassment, then I want to talk about it. Which is why I want to talk about medication, because again, when my clients say to me, I want to see how long I can go without medication, we can talk about this later on. And then when we explore it further, we find out that it's because they're embarrassed. It's because once they take medication, that means they are more severe, they are crazier, they are worse off than other people who are dealing with their depression, anxiety, addiction without medication. And that's the problem. We need to stop comparing ourselves to other people and stop labeling each other, the ones who are taking medication versus the ones who are not, and labeling one as the better and the other one as worse, because that is just completely wrong. It's false, it's inaccurate, and that's the thing that we need to talk more about. And that was my latest post on medication. I posted on Saturday, and I was sharing it at the beginning that it received so much attention, and I realized that part of it is because I shared with you guys something I tell my clients in my therapy session, but I think the big part of why it got so much interaction and engagement is because it's about a topic about mental health we need to talk about. So in my post, I also talk about benefits of medication, because you also need to look at the science behind it. First of all, most mental health conditions have a biological basis, all right? Meaning that there is a brain neurology, a physiology that is out of your hand and out of my hand, okay? We're all born with, our DNA, our genes, and we're all born with certain brain functioning. Some of us are born with a brain that is more active. That's just it. Some of us are born with a brain that communicates and misfires. And so when you're taking medication, what it's doing, it is correcting some of the brain communication, or miscommunication, I should say. What it's doing, it is correcting and repairing some of the hormonal imbalance your brain may have. And again, there's nothing you did or your parents did to cause it. You were just born with a certain, brain makeup, and medication helps to, repair it, balances it. So it's important to understand there's science behind it. The second reason that I think medication is so helpful is because it gives you some symptom relief. My goodness, you've been suffering from, lack of appetite. You've been suffering from poor sleep. And obviously that's making it hard to concentrate and pay attention. And here you are. Medication can help with your sleep, can help you have more restful sleep, therefore you feel more energized and less fatigued. So who doesn't want some symptom relief? And again, I think this goes back to these other issues here where people think, if I can just do it without medication and I can just prove myself to people like I worked harder, I think those are all nonsense. You don't have to suffer and you don't have to make a difficult situation worse for you. So by taking medication, we know that you are going to experience what we call symptom relief. And you're also going to experience, like I was talking about the hormonal imbalance, your mood swings are going to be fewer. There's going to be fewer up and down. There's going to be less cycles. And so you're going to experience more emotional mood stability, which again, who wouldn't? And with that, you will get more out of therapy. Because what medication does for all those things I mentioned, it helps you sleep better, and then that helps with your energy and concentration. And a lot of people, what they report to me once they take medication is that some of that fog clears out. So they have a lot more clarity to get more out of therapy, more out of what their therapist is saying. Someone wonderfully said, makes me think of what works for whom. So many options available, and medication should absolutely be one such choice. Thank you so much, Dr. Victoria. That is so true. And that's, again, what this conversation is about. Let me just say it again in case anybody watches this in the middle of it. This is not to say medication is right for everybody. I do not know your specific situation. I do not know your specific diagnosis. I am here to talk about, like I said, my recent post on medication got the most engagement I've ever seen in my IG page. All right, I don't know about yours. Maybe you're getting a lot of traffic, but for me, that was a pretty big deal. And I noticed that it must be partially because of the topic of medication. And we really need to be more open. And I think what we need to be open about is accepting each other's choices. How you decide to handle your mental health doesn't have to look the same way I handle my mental health. And one doesn't have to be the best one and the other one is the second best. So again, that's what this conversation is all about. And I was just mentioning all the benefits of taking medication. That you can have symptom relief, you have some, repairing and improvement in your brain functioning, brain communication. You will have more mood stability, fewer up and down mood cycles, and then you'll get more out of therapy. And that's the second thing I want to bring up here, the second piece of this conversation. This came up in my post. Some people commented on it. So let's talk about what science says. Science says that medication in combination of psychotherapy is most effective in treating most issues, such as, medication plus cognitive behavioral therapy is most effective in treating anxiety, depression. ERP, exposure relapse prevention, plus medication is effective in treating OCD. Same with addiction. You have your anti-craving medication, you have your SSRIs, and then you have your therapy to work on the underlying issues with your addiction, whether it's trauma or depression. You have your support system, you have your AA groups, you have your family and friends. So again, this idea that it's all about medication is not true. What I'm trying to say is, and what science has seen to be true, is medication plus therapy is effective. So the last thing I want to share with you guys is to talk a little bit about your medication routine. Because I know that sometimes we decide to take our medication, we decide that it is the best for us, but we're still having resistance to it. So I know that sometimes people, forget their medication or wait till last minute to take their medication, whether they have a morning routine or an evening routine, or they rush it. As soon as it's time to take their medication, like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., it's time to take medication and they're rushing it. So I think it's important to also take a look at how you're taking your medication during your day and making sure that it is still promoting self-acceptance. Because if your practice of taking medication has any of those things I mentioned, where you're rushing it, you're doing it last minute, or you're forgetting, or you're delaying taking your medication, that to me shows that you're still having a hard time accepting and feeling okay about taking medication. And this whole conversation has been about knowing that it's okay to take medication. Okay, you don't have to prove yourself to anybody. And thank you guys for stopping by and joining me for a few minutes. So again, I want to end this chat with you guys by talking about how to practice mindfulness when you're taking your medication. So I do want you to start by noticing again your own unique ways that you might be resisting taking your medication. Do you rush it? Do you just go really, really fast and like maybe multitask while you're taking your medication so you can be distracted and not truly present? Or are you the type of person who happens to be constantly forgetting taking their medication? So I want you to kind of examine yourself and take some accountability and acknowledge what are some of the ways that you might be still resisting your medication regimen, your practice of taking medication. And then I want you to, depending on what your pattern is, slow down. For example, if you're the type of person who's rushing while they're taking their medication, I really want you to slow down. I want you to give yourself permission that it's okay to be doing nothing this very minute but to take your medication. You don't need to be taking notes and take your medication. You don't need to be looking at your phone and take your medication. You can slow down, do nothing, and be present while you take your medication. That mindfulness is really important. And I also want to leave you with the loving kindness meditation mantra while you take your medication. So I want you to repeat these beautiful phrases, these beautiful mantras. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be healthy. And may I be happy. I want you to utilize this loving kindness mantra as you take your medication. You can do it before and after. You can do it just one or the other. But it's so important to be mindful as we take our medication and make sure that once we made the decision to incorporate medication to our mental journey, that our daily practice of taking the medication continues to be one of self-acceptance, one of self-compassion. So thank you so much for everybody for joining me. I tend to not share that I'll be doing this Instagram live chats because I just want to come in, talk with you guys, whoever can stop by. And today, as you know, the chat will be available on my page, and I decided to talk to you guys about my latest Instagram post on a medication, and I realized that it was a really helpful conversation that we need to have. Thank you everybody for stopping by, waving, commenting. I really appreciate it, and I hope you will have a wonderful week, and I will see you in the next chat. Bye guys.